do you really understand what your client's purpose is, right? Why are they doing what they're doing? Like working with a client and saying, okay, well, yeah, I help them manage their retirement because you get a 8% rate of return, right? Or is there some bigger purpose? And what I think, and this is a bit of advice, warning, I don't know, you call it whatever you want to call it, but the advisor that can tap into understanding what their client's purpose is, real meaningful purpose, that underlying, under the surface, deep understanding, those are the advisors that have the most success.
Welcome to Advisor Talk with Frank LaRosa, brought to you by Elite Consulting Partners. It's the only podcast offering unfiltered guidance and the direct advice for all things concerning financial advisors, RIAs, and the practitioners in the wealth management business. And now, welcome to the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to Advisor Talk with Frank LaRosa. I am your host, Frank LaRosa, joined once again and always, Stacey Frank, co-host.
Hey everyone.
How you doing?
Welcome. Happy to be back. Thanks for listening as always.
It's cold in here. If anyone wants to know why I'm always wearing a vest, I don't wear a vest during the day. I just only wear it when I'm in my podcast studio because it's freezing in here. It might actually be colder in here than it is outside.
For sure.
See. Anyway, for those of you that are joining us for the first time and listening to us, we also have a YouTube channel, also called Advisor Talk with Frank LaRosa. Isn't that smart? And so you get to see what we look like. You get to see our podcast studio, or at least part of our podcast studio. It really helps us frame, when we get in here, sort of like frame our conversation and we get ready to rock and roll. So today I want to talk about something, and it came off of something that I listened to over the weekend. It was an interview with Alex Hormozi, who's the CEO founder of acquisition.com, and Tony Robbins. And, I do a lot of stuff with Alex. I go to his organization a lot, and their team helps my team, all that stuff. And it was an interview where Alex is really supposedly interviewing Tony Robbins, but what ends up turning out is it becomes basically a therapy session for Alex, right? It was interesting how it worked out. And really was talking about, Alex is very successful, and it's really just talking about, like, when you get to a certain success level, it's not about the destination necessarily. It's about the journey, and really how to continue your energy by getting connected with purpose. And so what Tony Robbins was talking about was just his purpose in feeding millions and millions of people, right? And so it got me thinking. You should listen to it. It's only about an hour. It's really good video, or I don't even know if it was a podcast because I listened to it on YouTube. But it's on YouTube. Just search Tony Robbins, Alex Hormozi, Hormozi. But it got me thinking about a lot of the conversations that, Stacey, you and I have with advisors. And when we first start working with an advisor, one of the questions that we ask them is, essentially, what do they want to be when they grow up, right? Like, why are they doing what they're doing? And what are their goals, right? And what are their goals, and really why? And we ask those questions because it helps us dive deeper into understanding what their objectives are, so that we can help them better. And but I think a lot of advisors fail to understand the differences between, like, what a goal is and what your purpose is.
Yeah, I see that all the time as well. When I first talk to an advisor, we say, why are we having this conversation? What are you trying to achieve? They might say something like, I want to grow my business by 10x, or when I retire, I want, $100 million in assets, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But what they fail to skip over many times is really the backbone of why they're doing this in the first place. And that is, what gets you up every day, and what is it about working with your clients that is intrinsically motivating? I think maybe that's a psychology word.
That's fancy.
So it is fancy. That's where I come from. But so I feel like sometimes advisors sell their goals short, or are hyper focused on the end result versus what got them into the business in the first place, and why are they working with their clients just right out of the gate. So I feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect there, and I think that's what we were trying to talk about.
And what I really want to have the conversation is about that, because getting to $100 million exit or whatever it is, or I want to build a business and I want to have 100 advisors underneath me, and I want my business to do X, Y, or Z. But the question is why, right? Why do you want to do that, right? What is your purpose? And if it's, well, I want to retire or whatever it is. And I think that advisors are failing to go back to the core of what makes them unique, and that is their passion to help clients. I mean, look, if that's not your passion, you're probably in the wrong business. But what is the purpose of why you are doing what you're doing? Why are you a financial advisor, right? So for us here, our purpose is to help advisors transition hopes and dreams into reality. That's the truth. And hopes and dreams into reality means something different for everybody. Case in point, you might be an advisor thinking about retiring soon. Okay, well, your hopes and dreams are to, get the right transition deal, sell your practice at the right multiple so that your clients go to the right buyer, that they're happy, so that your deal works out, so you can travel the world or go live in Italy or go, whatever, spend more time with your grandchildren. Like that's transitioning hopes and dreams into reality. And so by understanding what those really are, it helps us, right? And I think advisors, I get the sense from when I talk to advisors about what their goals are and what their purpose is, they get it confused. And they think that their purpose is to build a large enterprise OSJ. And I'm like, no. That's a goal. And that's okay to have that goal. But what is your purpose?
And I think what's so indicative of this is that when we help advisors, identify who their succession what their succession strategy is or their continuity plan, and then they go through retirement and they, sail off into the sunset, go play golf a few days a week or move to Australia for a month, whatever it is, what happens to them is they achieve their obvious goal. Maybe it's capital, maybe it's travel, but then the intrinsic goal, their purpose of why they got in the bit, it disappears.
Right.
And then they don't feel as productive in their day, in their retirement. We hear it all the time.
Well, they get depressed. It's the same thing when you work with a client. When I was an advisor, and I was, I'll probably say I experienced this more when I was a director, and I used to work with my advisors, and they would bring in some of their wealthy clients, and I would sit with them and we would talk. And the wealthiest clients all had one thing in common, or at least the most successful ones, is they all were driven by purpose, right? They weren't trying to get a better rate of return on their money. They were philanthropic in some form or fashion, right? They had some purpose that drove them. And I think that's what you see with super successful people. I used, I'm losing what's her name? Martha Stewart. I don't know how I draw a blank there. Martha Stewart. I for whatever reason, I use Martha Stewart as an example of someone that's really successful. And at her age, she's in her late 70s, I guess, early 80s, right? She's still a work machine. And it's not because she wants more money, right? It's because she has a bigger purpose in her life. And the journey is more important than the destination. What Tony talked about is the people that he coaches, the ones that are really successful, are the ones that connect and tie everything that they do to a really meaningful purpose. The ones that are uber wealthy and miserable people, he said, because they've lost their purpose. We've all heard that expression, that saying or not example of like Olympic gold medalists, right? They achieve that Olympic gold, and then after that, their basically life spirals out of control.
Yeah. Because
they lost their purpose in the sense of who they were. And sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so we were kind of back and forth on different videos relating to this topic. Mm-hmm. Many of our listeners know I'm big into pickleball and tennis, and so I follow, great athletes, high achieving athletes. And Andre Agassi put out a a video exactly on this topic, that in his early years, he rose to be number one in the world. Yay, trophies, all the money, all the accolades and recognition in the world. And if you watch this video that he put out, it actually says he felt the most disconnected to his goals and dreams that he ever had in his entire life. And he just won, I don't know if it was the US Open or Wimbledon, whatever it was, or multiple, big events like that. And then he sunk down to number 140 in the world. So he was depressed and went through this, self-realization. But then when he reconnected his vision for why he plays tennis in the first place, whether it be self-improvement or to help his family achieve goals, he talks about all of those things. Once he tied that goal to something more meaningful, more intrinsic, and he got to number one again in his later part of his career, he felt so much more rewarded and a sense of accomplishment. And he was able to tie that success, that high level of achievement, to something so much more just meaningful. And then he feels like he was about to leave a better life.
Yeah.
Had a greater purpose.
So I think that the message here is really like three areas, right? Your purpose personally, your purpose if you were trying to go through a transition, like what is the purpose? Why are you trying to do what you're trying to do? Why are we helping you either move or sell your practice, whatever it is, right? What is your purpose within your business on a day-to-day basis? Why are you doing what you're doing? And then the other one, so it's really four, I guess, that the message to you in working with your clients is, do you really understand what your client's purpose is? Right? Why are they doing what they're doing? Like working with a client and saying, okay, well, yeah, I help them manage their retirement because you get a 8% rate of return, right? Or is there some bigger purpose? And what I think, and this is a bit of advice, warning, I don't know, you call it whatever you want to call it, but the advisor that can tap into understanding what their client's purpose is, real meaningful purpose, that underlying, under the surface, deep understanding, those are the advisors that have the most success, because those are the advisors that connect the deepest with their clients.
And many of those types of advisors will also say, Stace, that this isn't a job.
Right.
This is my vision, my purpose in life. I'll never retire. God willing, if something happens or illness or whatever, there's so many advisors that go through the exercise of having a succession plan, for example. But the most successful teams we work with are ones that will say, I have it in place, but what would I do with my life if I didn't have my clients?
Yeah. I've had these conversations with wirehouse advisors, and they say, I'm just going to, I'll just say somebody in their mid-60s, which is relatively young, right? Especially when you're in your 50s. It's right around the corner.
Yeah.
And they'll say, well, I'm going to probably retire in a year or two. I think I'm done. I'm like, okay, well, let me just ask you, are you done because of the firm that you're at and they're just wearing you out and you're basically calling uncle, right? Or is it because you've lost your sense of purpose with working with your clients? And most of the time, they say, no, I love working with my clients. That's what I love to do the most, right? I just can't deal with the compliance, the this, that, and they'll run off a litany of different things. And so my thing to them is, then listen, then what we should be working on is not necessarily finding a way for you to retire, but finding the firm that you should go to that allows you to connect back to your purpose so you get energy again and you enjoy what you do again. If we can do that, do you think you'd want to retire? And they're like, well, no, that would be different, right? And so that's what I mean about making sure that you connect back to your purpose. And, so your purpose might be, if you're a financial advisor, to help 1,000, families achieve, meaningful financial success. Like it has to be something like that, something big. One of the things that Tony says is trying to connect your purpose to something meaningful that in your life, meaning it becomes personal to you to have this purpose, right? So if you are a financial advisor and you grew up and your family didn't have any money, or maybe your family lost all their money because I got bad investment advice from some shyster years ago. So your purpose, right, is to make sure that never happens to another family ever again, right? And so when you connect to whatever that purpose is, it has to be authentic. It just makes doing what you do so much easier, right? For us, again, I told you what our purpose is, but the reason why I don't mind working 12 or 14 hours a day is because, one, I want to help a lot of financial advisors, right, transition their hopes and dreams into reality. So the more we can do that, the more conversations I can have, the bigger the firm I have, the more people we can help. And I really believe that we give the best advice out there. That's one of the reasons why I do it. The other reason is I want to build an organization that people can come to my organization to build their own careers here, right, to achieve their hopes and dreams, because that's what gets me going. Because, like my wife says, why don't you just do this on your own? You can make just as much money, right? And that's true, maybe, but to me, it's not as rewarding, right? It's not about the money, because if it was just about the money, I would just do this from my house, right? I'd have no headaches because I don't have employees, all the other stuff, right?
No HR issues.
No HR issues or whatever comes along with building a big company. I do it because my passion is to help other people achieve their hopes and dreams, right? And that's employees, that's advisors.
And how many times, maybe this is a question for you, how many times have you started working with, it's called a wirehouse advisor that says, I'm done with this corporate nonsense and my payout's being cut again. I'm going to go independent. I'm going to sell my business, blah, blah, blah. And then they get to their destination of their new firm. And then what do they say?
Should have done it sooner.
Should have done it sooner.
Having so much more fun.
And I feel rejuvenated again. So
right.
Sometimes, I would say oftentimes, going through our defined process, which is trademarked, right? Going through the elite process helps advisors redefine their purpose on working with their clients and what their goals are for themselves, that they don't rip up their succession plan or continuity, but they just kind of maybe, let's put it over here for a little bit of time because I'm having so much more fun again. And oh, by the way, my business is starting to grow exponentially again.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
We love when that happens. That's what we get excited about. I've been doing this a long time, and I think that financial advisors are in a unique situation. And other than maybe health issues or things like that, I don't think advisors ever really need to actually retire. I tell my wife, I'll just work differently, right? Because I don't want to lose that sense. I can't understand how someone can just stop, and then just go play golf or go do whatever. I don't even know if I could even go maybe race car driving. Maybe that would be one different thing. Maybe I would try that. But you have to have that sense of purpose. And when you don't have that sense of purpose, you, in a way, lose direction, right? And so you're sort of almost like in a sailboat with the sail down, right? And so you lose direction where you're going. And then by the way, your purpose can change over time. It doesn't be this was my purpose today, and then, it has to be that way all the time. What I have seen is as people sort of mature, they get older, and their life matures, whether in a different way, they have kids or grandkids or whatever it is, right? And again, if you're listening to this and you're a financial advisor, this is about you, but it's also, this is the conversation you should be having with your clients. Because no one else is. I promise you, if you have these conversations with your clients, it will be a more meaningful relationship, and most likely you're going to get more referrals because nobody else is having these conversations with clients, right? But my point is, back to the purpose. Purpose can evolve over time.
Absolutely.
When I first started this organization, I didn't necessarily have a purpose of building an organization so big that I can help, people come here and build a career here and blah, 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 right? My purpose really was to help advisors get the best possible information they can before they make a move, because I felt like there was a void in our space of people giving advisors the right kind of advice, right? There was too much salesmanship going on. And so, and it was interesting because when I first started, it was about making money, right? Okay, I just need to make money. I'm starting this company. out of my basement. I just need to make money. And it was fine. And for, it wasn't that I didn't make any money, but it wasn't until like 2 years in where I really changed and dialed in on not making money, but more about helping advisors find the right home, right? Irregardless of whatever my fee was from whatever firm, right?
And my guess is it probably changed the way you spoke to advisors.
Totally.
The questions that you asked.
Totally. It changed,
major evolution.
It changed my approach. It changed. Not that I wasn't trying to understand them, because I've been in this business a long time, so I understand advisory practices. But it just changed my perception and my mental attitude and approach to how I was working with an advisor. And we went from working with, I'll just say at the time, maybe 5 or 6 firms to, over 100 and some odd firms, right? Because my philosophy started to be, well, if I'm going to have this approach, then I need to understand all of the firms out there so I can guide my advisor clients the right way. And where I'm going with that is, once I tapped into, listen, that's the goal. That's what we're going to be doing. Our goal is to help an advisor find the right firm, period, hard stop. That's when my business really exploded.
Yeah, and I'd love to add to that too, and you might get a little
and maybe
chuckle.
when Stacey came.
Well, remember, I came here just for the fun job.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Stay-at-home mom for how many years,
right.
And came to Elite to have something to do. And then, I hate to say it, but it really started becoming, I don't want to say addicting, but like, oh my gosh, this is so empowering. Maybe that's the word.
Yeah.
This is so empowering that I get to be in a position to help our clients, financial advisors, achieve something that they never thought they could achieve.
Right.
Now, mind you, I come from a psychology and counseling and consulting background. So as soon as I felt that capability with being here at Elite, and then the way I started speaking with advisors in that consultative manner and helping you achieve your goals and your hopes and dreams and all that good stuff, number one, my business grew through the roof. And number two, the reward I was getting back from those advisor clients that I was working with. Wow, Stace, handwritten notes of, you helped me achieve my goals. I see my clients in a different way. I have a whole new, enthusiasm around my business. I'm never retiring. As soon as those things started coming out of the work I was doing with clients, now I was like, okay, now I'm one of the faces of Elite, and here we go. And just having a lot of great success here with working with advisors. So grateful for that, of course.
I had a dialogue with a friend of mine, a client and a friend. I'm not sure which came first. Doesn't really matter, but he's a friend. And we got him to a firm that he'd always wanted to go to, and there was always little I'll just say roadblocks along the way. And we finally got it done. And he texted me over the weekend, so I asked him how things went. He's been great. He said one of his best months ever. And he said, thank you for making this happen. Without your involvement, this never would have happened. To me, that means the world, right? That means everything, because that's what my purpose is, to help him get to a firm for lots of different reasons that he felt like that's where I belong. But there was these sort of walls that were being put up over the years for different reasons. And I was able to really get involved and kick down some of those walls and use some of the leverage of my firm and size of our firm to get the firm that he went to essentially make an exception, right? Not like a legal thing. It wasn't anything like that. And I don't want to get into it, but made an exception. And to me, that means everything. And as Stacey and I always say, that's why we do what we do, right?
That's why we do it.
So you need to figure out why you do what you do. Why do you do what you do? Not like, well, because I want to build $100 million firm and I want to have an exit and make blah, 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 blah. No. That's a goal. Why do you get up every single day and work with clients, right? I think too many advisors, I'm not going to say have lost your way.
Get caught up in
I'm not saying
noise.
I'm not saying lost your way. I'm not saying that. Like, you work with advisors, you're really good at what you do, but I rarely hear advisors that we work with talk about real purpose in why they actually do what they do, the way they do it, with the passion that they do it. If you're an investment manager and you run money a certain way and you're really, why are you so passionate about doing it that way for your clients? And so just think through that stuff, right?
think through it, but also communicate it to your partners, to your staff in your business, but communicate that to your clients. Let your clients know,
Right.
Here's what I'm in it for. I'm here to help you achieve your goals, your vision, financial wellness, whatever it is. And watch what happens as soon as that mind shift kicks in.
Yeah. And then I think that's a great thing. Communicate it all the time. Talk about it all the time. Part of that is self-serving because it connects you to it all the time.
Correct.
Versus like just writing it down. Like if you just write it down on a piece of paper and and maybe you even put it on the wall, right? But if you never talk about it, then it doesn't matter, right? Then it's not going to be ingrained into your organization. Which is why we talk about it all the time.
Right.
And it reinforces why you do what you do. So I know that was a sort of maybe a deeper conversation than maybe you want to think about, but this is
the stuff.
This is the stuff that we deal with. This is the stuff we talk about. Yes, we are, we specialize in helping advisors move firms or buy firms or sell, right? But along the way, when we do this, in order for us to be as good as we are, these are the conversations that we're having. That my guess is you're not having these conversations with other like recruiters, right? That are just trying to get you to go to LPL or go to this firm or go to that firm, because that's the easiest solution for them to make money. These are the types of conversations that I'm having. Some of them have led into coaching clients, which I take on very
friendships
sporadically, but a lot of them turn into friendships. Many of them, right? I end up saying, as my team knows, like I'll talk about a client and eventually I say client, my buddy. Like that's when they know, oh, okay, Frank's been working with them for a while, because I don't refer to them as a client anymore. I just refer to them as, oh yeah, my buddy at XYZ firm. Oh, my buddy at this firm.
Right.
Oh, I just moved my buddy at, right? Because that's how intimately we get to know our clients. If you want that kind of experience, maybe it's like, I won't say like a Jerry Maguire kind of thing, but it's the truth. If you want that kind of experience, you feel like you're not getting the right guidance, or you simply don't know what you don't know, which is a big deal because there's so much out there, you should just reach out to us. We're happy to have a conversation. You can reach out to Stacey. Of course, you can call her directly at
856-816-6322 or Stacey@eliteconsultingpartners.com. Don't forget the E, or
Right.
Frank at
eliteconsultingpartners.com, obviously. 856-316-4651. Don't forget to check out my Instagram account, which is franklarosa.elite. We have some really good stuff on there. We also have our podcast on there. But listen, we're very passionate about doing this, but we're also very passionate about teaching people
why we do this.
about why we do this and why, taking these lessons that it's like when I listen to things, I always try to bring back to how does that impact, how does it resonate with what I do. I hope that you do the same thing with some of the things that we talk about, right? Because yes, we're talking about moving businesses and selling firms and all that other stuff, right? But if there are things that we talk about that you can take back to your clients and make you better at what you're doing at your craft, then we've done our job. That's why we do what we do. That's why we come in here. That's why we think about these things. We take these conversations seriously because they're really important. We love what we do. I love this business. Been doing this for 30 years. It's all I ever think about. It's all I really know. Candidly, my wife laughs at me because I don't have a lot of friends, because I'm like, babe, because I don't really know what to talk about. Okay? Other than this business, cats, boxing, and race cars, I don't really.
That's enough.
I don't really care about anything else, right? Meaning like, okay, you know what I mean? So
That's good.
Yeah. So if you want to talk about any of those things, cats, boxing, or race cars, or moving, you can call me.
Right.
Happy to talk about all of those things. But anyway, with that said, hope that really helps. Hope that gives you some deep thought. If you're listening to this in the car, maybe just put this on pause. Don't turn on music and just think about what we said. Love to have a conversation with you. Candidly, if you're interested in some level of coaching services, I'd be happy to have a conversation to see if it's a fit or not. Again, I take on coaching clients very carefully because of what I'm trying to get accomplished. And look forward to the next conversation.
Thanks for listening.
Awesome.
See you
Thanks
soon.
a lot. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Advisor Talk with Frank LaRosa. If you're looking for more advice or solutions on any topics relating to the financial services industry, or just want to subscribe to our podcast, head on over to eliteconsultingpartners.com/podcast.